action or something. Yeah.
I'm Tori Milner, and I'm from the Iyengar Yoga Association of Greater New York here with Uday.
And I'm Susan Elena Esquivel from the Iyengar Yoga Center of Western Massachusetts.
I'm James Murphy from New York as well.
And we're so pleased to be here with Uday. And
Thank you. I thought I was going to introduce.
introduce yourself.
Then I'm happy to be with all these wonderful practitioners over here.
Yes, yeah. So those experiences working with, so you had a woman's body, you had Raya, who's very tall, and then yourself.
Hearing.
That was
I'm
one
short.
of the same, trying to learn about different body types. You also learned a lot in the medical classes where you worked with Gita Ji there for many years, and then also the children's classes. So can you talk a little bit about how all that's come together to form your own teaching style? Because I find you have this unique way of integrating movement, like from the children's classes, but you also have a very strong sense of therapeutics that you also bring in, as well as a philosophy. So how did that all come together for you? It makes sense.
So I think, again, the credit goes to all the teachers at the institute there and the way the learning happened over there. Still continues to happen whenever we go. The point, I think, children class was, that's where we first started. And being in front of children was exciting, great fun. And at the same time, a proper, I would say it was a good, intense training for being in front of people, because with children, they're brutally honest. If they like you, you can see that in your eyes. But for whatever reason, if you start being boring, you can clearly see that in that, and they'll just make it clear. They'll start expressing it, moving, and just it will be clear. And that is quite being in front and seeing your audience do that, it's embarrassing, or it's not a pleasant sign, right? So it I think prepared in a way to face that kind of situation and to keep them engaged and involved all the while, and of course have fun with them, which was an exciting thing there. And with the therapy class, Gitaji used to always emphasize that therapy is nothing different than what you're doing in the general class. It's just that a particular condition, a particular case needs certain adjustments to be focused on. But it is not something like it's a different subject or a topic altogether. So whatever we practice and its therapeutic significance, it again is interesting to study the correlation there. And once she mentioned that, and time to time she would point that in the classes, like, see, this is what you do in the therapy class, and why are you not practicing it like this over here in the class? I'm asking you to do it and you're neglecting it. Then you come to the therapy class and then you need an assistant teacher to help you for that. So all those remarks started connecting those dots, and I feel that started creating the interest and developing in a way. Means I would say that's how the curiosity developed, evolved, to start linking why a particular instruction, if they're emphasizing on it, Guruji, Gitaji, Prashantji in the class, if they emphasize on a particular point, what could be its significance, or how can we correlate? So that, I think that all makes it more interesting to study.
Yeah,
that's how I started studying, and I still continue to do that.
yeah, and I see that in your sequencing in your classes. You'll start with a particular thing and do it over and over and over again, and then you go on to the next thing. And do you find that now that you're teaching all over the world and now leaving Remy, not teaching there, and teaching more varieties of bodies and cultures, was that something that really supported you in reaching all the different people you reach around the world with the practice?
As in, means what I did at Remy or what I've done, like
But I
practiced
feel
over.
like now the way your classes are structured, you have you're very,
Mhm.
you have like one action, like
Right, right, right.
either with the hip or something, and then you really like spend a lot of time on that. Like sometimes I'll feel
Mm.
like for an hour in a 2 hour class, this one action, and then you
Right.
really say, okay, now you can go to the next step. Like you keep people from going to the next thing because you want to be very clear about the understanding, and it really pays off in the end because then all of a sudden you're doing some
Mm.
other pose you didn't think you'd be doing because you spent all that time. So is that something that also came from what you were seeing teaching around the world that was needed, that people needed more time with actions?
So correct. So that I would say over the years I have realized and brought in that change in my teaching where what I felt was going through a sequence. Often, like we would go through the poses, the instructions were given, and they were acted upon as well. But I realized that if we give enough time, and particularly happened with this as the online medium started, where we had suddenly, instead of just once a week, we were meeting throughout the week. And those initial days, I realized if I'm meeting everyone, those who are attending, we're gathering every day. So I have time at my hand where I can just open up the asana, open up the preparatory part, and tomorrow we can have the continuation. And as a result of that, what happened was towards the end of the week, that Trikonasana, if we were practicing standing poses, that Trikonasana has a complete different experience. And I started getting emails with feedback saying that I've been practicing for 30 years now, and my Trikonasana has never felt like what we've done. So that was quite encouraging to receive that kind of feedback from senior practitioners. And I realized that we can continue with this kind of work where what's the rush of completing X number of asanas within a session? Fine, we can perhaps take this time to dive and explore a bit more on those basic movements, which of course these teachers have said time again and again, but we passingly means I feel for them the limitation was the amount of time they had with their students. So they would emphasize, they would with all that passion, that intensity, they would try to convey. And as students also perhaps we would try and do it with our own intensity in that limited form. But then it just had to continue, it had to go further. So if we can break it down, take that time, and might as well just get one action, one adjustment. But if it starts to create a difference, if it starts to reflect in our practice, as that remark came up, I feel that can be a contribution. That can be something which can help us evolve our practice in some way. And I feel it. I've realized over a period, it's helpful for everyone. Means as a beginner can start building those basic building blocks in the practice. For a experienced practitioner, those dots connect much better. There is something else which starts to coordinate along with it, and it's not even something which I might have said or taught, but it brings or connects the picture in a different way. So I've realized it's quite encouraging to practice that way. It's not intimidating as well, like going one after the other, bam, 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 just trying to uh, get you through all those asanas. We do that at times, as you must have seen, like the active classes are designed a bit more like that. But to generally go on, this, I think, I found this has been a bit more interesting, at least so far.